Longtime fans of the channel may remember when we used to make a lot of Tower of God lore. In fact, that might be the reason why you even found this channel. Well, today, we're rebooting the Tower of God lore series here on the Dr. Bonehead channel by starting with the very first one that we made way back when on the three lords, the three rulers of Jahad's empire. We're gonna be redoing all the videos I made before, as well as adding a ton of new lore videos, basically just updating them with new information based on the new lore of the series and new blog post information, as well as, more importantly, it just, I think it looks a lot better. The three lords are the ones who rule Jahad's empire, but they don't do it simultaneously. These three lords take turns every 1,000 years ruling Jahad's empire, which I find really fascinating. Obviously, there's the question of they haven't been mentioned in the main series. This is like deep lore. This is like a couple blog posts tops mentioning these characters, but we'll get to that near the end because there's actually more information that is somewhat canon to these characters that I'll talk about at the end of the video. What I like about these characters is not only the lore and intrigue and mystery surrounding them, but also the fact that they represent an ancient concept of the Jahad Empire and Jahad himself, which is the symbol of three. Obviously, Jahad has the three eyes as his symbol. We've seen that even in Bomb's cave way back when. But we also know that when Jahad gives orders to his troops, to Adori, and to his entire empire, he gives his orders in batches of three, letting his followers choose which of the three orders to follow. Unless you're Adori Jahad, in which case you'll do all three, because you're a bit of a tryhard. You're a bit of a show-off, and we love her for it. These three are the ultimate authority in the tower. Remember, for a long time, up until recent events in TOG, Jahad was basically inactive. He was inactive, and so these three were basically Jahad for all intents and purposes. If somebody had a question for Jahad, they would have talked to these three, whoever was the current ruler instead. Jahad would have been taking a nap, playing some video games. Who can blame the guy? Just got done killing a baby and gonna play some Skyrim. Even more than the family heads, these three had the ultimate authority. They were at the top of the top in terms of anything to do with Jahad. I'm talking politics, I'm talking territory disputes, items, you name it. These three were the ones you would go to. And interestingly enough, some of these three came from some very interesting and even sort of well-known, renowned backgrounds, but they had to give them up. Anybody who becomes a member of the three lords is now essentially loyal to Jahad and Jahad alone. So they're only really referred to by their first name. As we talk about each of the three in detail, I want to play a little game and see if by the end of our discussion and sort of investigation of these characters, if they truly deserve the title of one of the three lords. Let's find out. How many of them are gonna make it? Let's find out. The first one that we're gonna talk about is my personal favorite, that being Malik 1 PGR. If you're a Tower of God fan, maybe you've heard the name. If you haven't, this dude is a badass. Not only is he within the top 20 in terms of rankings in the tower, placing above some of the family heads, this dude is old. I mean, he's been around since the actual climb itself, and his name, in fact, comes from the fact that he was the ruler of his own sort of village in the tower. So he's a tower native. And there are so many cool badass things about Malik 1 PGR. His name literally translates to Absolute Lord of Malik, which means that he was in charge of his own territory, his own kingdom, essentially, maybe like a small little village kingdom. It's speculation, right? But apparently a duel with Jahad is what earned his loyalty to Jahad. And he's been a Jahad dude ever since, keeping the badass name, but now serving under Jahad. Like the other three lords, but especially pertaining to Malik 1 PGR, he's treated as if he was a family head. Any meeting that is held, even if he's just one of the dozens of people invited, he commands some of the biggest, if not the most respect out of everyone in the entire room. If he had a D&D character sheet, his charisma is more than maxed out. It's insane. If he stands up to speak, everybody listens. And it's not because they're afraid of him, although they probably would have good reason to be afraid of him, as we'll get to. It's because he's genuinely seen as a really good ruler who makes wise decisions. He's a little more conservative. He relies upon tradition and tried and true methods and ways that have worked for thousands of years. He's the oldest of the three lords, being around since Jahad and the others climbed, and it shows through his experience and the choices that he makes. If this dude says something, you shut up and listen. But okay, he's a good politician, that's good to know, but he's also the strongest of the three. In terms of military or martial prowess, not only is Malik 1 PGR the strongest, he can fulfill and take the place of any one of the positions. Now, what's so badass, that's already badass, right? He can fill any position, but what's even more badass about this is the proper way that the blog post describes this fact about Malik isn't that he can fill any position, it's more accurate to say that he doesn't care about positions. Malik 1 PGR is so strong and overwhelming that the concept of positions themselves do not apply to him. He's a Chad, obviously, that was the easiest one. Next. Actually, we're not done, because he wields a halberd, which is another badass point added to the list. He's sick, he's like an old man. I imagine him being kind of like Robodon, looking like Robodon, but with like black hair instead, kind of a badass grizzled dude, obviously massive, wielding his halberd to kick ass. Like, he's a Jahad loyalist, so, you know, maybe some people would take away points for that, but here's the thing, I feel as though Jahad earning his respect through a duel is the best way to become a Jahad loyalist, right? Like, you out-marshaled him, maybe being the only person ever to do so. I don't know. Malik 1 PGR, my favorite of the three, and an absolute badass. Now, if Malik 1 PGR is the kind of old conservative type within the politics of the three lords, then Ju-chun is the complete opposite. Ju-chun is the youngest of the three, kind of the hotshot progressive kid on the block who is still wise and is considered a great ruler. He advocates for regulars' rights, which is kind of, I don't know, in my opinion, a bit of a rarity. Like, not to say that others wouldn't be doing so too, but in terms of Ju-chun himself, like, one of the three lords being like, hey, these tests are kind of brutal. Like, we should allow more regulars access to the tower and allow them to climb easier because it fuels our economy. He's doing a lot of these things that probably compared to someone like Malik wouldn't go over well because they don't have a lot of experience to back it up. Now, Ju-chun's backstory is actually super cool because his mother is a tower native. We don't know her name or much about her, but his father is Ari Han, the leader of the Ari family, meaning that Ju-chun is a direct descendant of one of the 10 great family leaders. Although, of course, as we mentioned before, he would have had to abandon that name when taking on the role of the Three Lord. His mom died giving birth to him, which I always found to be like super weird and kind of strange because if Ari Han's wife or lover was giving birth, like, don't you think he'd like, I don't know, forget like call Gustang. We saw Gustang look at Rachel and cure her of an intense poison. The dude, like, Ari Han doesn't have Gusting on speed dial. I find that a bit crazy. Another fun fact about this whole, like, mom-dad Ju-chun situation is that Ju-chun's name literally translates to alcohol river. Now, we know Ju-chun does like to drink alcohol, but what I always wondered was, like, did they name him Ju-chun first? Like, the name Alcohol River alone is crazy, but, like, I wonder if his love for alcohol came first, or his name, I don't know. Is it a nickname? I just find that very funny. His mother dying, giving birth and saying, Alcohol River. It's 10 out of 10. I hope that's what happened. There's one more little fun fact about Ju-chun. It's not that big a deal. He's drinking buddies with a certain Yurik Mazino. They go out for drinks on the weekends. They're like best buds. Listen, his name is Alcohol River, but he's best friends with Yurik Mazino. He's a Chad, add him to the list. The final member of the three lords is a certain individual named Flux, otherwise known as the Magician. I find that kind of cool because the other members of the three lords don't have titles that we're aware of, aside from, I guess, Absolute Lord of Malik. But regardless, the Magician is a very fitting name for Flux because Flux is the only member of the three that no one has ever seen before. And there's good reason for this. Flux is an artificial organism, an artificial child created by Mixeth, the leader of the workshop. Flux is sort of a unique individual who, Mixeth being able to create life has always been crazy to me because we know that Enkidu was a sort of attempt by Traumarai to create an artificial human that could be controlled. Now we know Mixeth is the one that created, assumedly, Enkidu. And I find this so fascinating because Traumarai essentially asked for an artificial human, and then Mixeth said, ooh, this jelly, this blob of jelly is all I got, but secretly was making Max and Mai and May. We gotta make a whole video on Mixeth. But either way, tangent aside though, Flux is a father of the workshop, which is a higher form of disciple. Now, there's a rule within the workshop that if you are a disciple, you cannot enter the tower. Essentially, if you enter the tower after becoming a disciple, then you are expelled from the workshop. There is one person in all of the workshop's history that this has not applied to, and that's Flux, Mixeth's child, the artificial organism themselves. What's crazy about this is that I imagine like the rules were going to be applied, but Flux is so much of a badass, and you'll see why in a sec, so much of a badass, they turned around and said, try me, stop me, and no one did. Like, I almost feel like this isn't Mixeth stepping in, but no one wanting to enforce the rule, which I just think is so funny. Flux is all about illusion, so anyone who has seen Flux has only seen an illusion. And this is also complementing the fact that Flux is perhaps, aside from Tuperi, the best light bearer in the entire tower. I'm going out on a bit of a limb to say that, but hear me out. Not only is Flux able to have never been seen by any living person, Flux is also the owner of an opera. There are only 3 operas that exist, and they are the most broken, overpowered lighthouses to ever have existed. And we know Repelista owns one of them. Assumedly, Tuperi owns one of them as the creator, and the other person that owns one is Flux. And these things are nuts. We know that Yurik even mentions it. Fun fact, the Tuperi family has never been mentioned in TOG canon, but the operas have been, which I just think is so funny to me, that Yurik mentions how, ooh, only an opera could stop me for more than a millisecond, and yet the Tuperi family has never been mentioned outside of blog posts. But that thing that Yurik Mizuno made mention of is owned by the magician themselves. One of the best light bearers in the entire tower, a mysterious being who's never been seen before, and the only disciple of the workshop that the rules don't apply to. Flux is a Chad, get it over with. So there you go, all 3 of them are easily deserving of their titles, but there's one more thing that I want to address here, and that's that a lot of people do not consider the 3 lords to be canon. And I have a bit of a nuanced opinion on this, a bit of a mixed opinion, I should say, because it is true that they've never been mentioned in official Tower of God lore as of recording this video in 2025. However, there are many cases of blog post information coming true, and vice versa. I mean, Yama's backstory got changed, and Hana became Yirong, right? A lot of things like that happen. However, the Tuperi family would also then be considered non-canon, which I don't see as many people saying. Regardless, I have one piece of very funny kind of information that somewhat supports the idea that they are at least loosely canon. They are loosely canon to Tower of God, and that's because they appear in the mobile game. And they don't just appear, they appear as like runes, like items in Great Journey, although Great Journey is now like being discontinued, so I don't even know if that's... I guess this would mean that Escanor is canon too, because Escanor is in the other mobile... They're in the mobile game, their names are mentioned. What more do you want from me, bro? In my opinion, it's assumed canon unless proven otherwise, but you are welcome to your own opinions. Even if they are not canon, it's a part of like old Tower of God canon, ancient Tower of God canon, if you will, which in a way is kind of even cooler. I don't know, I'm cool with it either way. Thank you so much for watching this video. More Tower of God lore is incoming, both refreshing the old videos we made as well as adding new ones. And I want to thank you for supporting this channel as a viewer, as a subscriber, and also the patrons. Shout out to our rankers, Mr. Nexo, Olaf Lind, Snap the Slayer Anime, and Soren Quasagrok. Thank you so much for your support. If you want to support the channel and appear here at the end with all these cool people and climb the tower, then check out the link down below. I'll see you guys in the next Tower of God lore video. Peace!